fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who mean just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret.
The United States of America owes its very existence to young men and women who have been willing to place themselves in harm's way. For well over 200 years, young men and women have sacrificed their very lives and well-being to assure that our nation continues to exist as a free and independent nation. This film is dedicated to telling the stories of some of those who honorably served in World War II. These veterans came from common upbringings in our communities and performed very uncommon deeds of courage and valor that have ended up assuring our nation's very survival. We salute all who have served our country well and sincerely believe you will enjoy their stories as told on film in their own words just as much as we have enjoyed recording them.
And it is with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce to you Lee Nelson.
Good morning. It's the 24th of September 2008. And we're visiting with Gunnar Nielsen here at the Harlan Airport, Ruschenberg Field, I believe it's accurately called. And we really appreciate the opportunity, Gunnar, to be here with you. And we're going to start out, I might also add, you're going to enjoy watching this yourself. So, and then you will, no, you will. I'll guarantee you. You'll say, whoa, that's me. I'm on camera. Okay. Anyway, why don't we start out, Gunnar, talking about where and when you were born. Okay.
Okay, I was born about 2 miles north of Fiskus.
Okay.
On July 14th, 1925.
Okay.
Moss and Christina Nielsen, my parents.
All right, and how many kids were in your family?
Well, there was 4 girls beside me.
Okay. Where do you fit in that? Are you in the middle or the oldest?
I'm next to the last one.
Next to the youngest. Okay, all right.
My oldest sister died when she was 10 or 11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I just vaguely remember her.
So did she obviously get sick from some disease or something?
I never really knew what
Oh, really?
Because I was 5 years old.
All right. Okay, and obviously no one probably wanted to really talk about it, so it was just kind of, that's the way it is. Well, okay, your parents were farmers, right?
Well, yeah, my mother kept house for my great uncle, who was the one that owned the farm.
Okay.
And Dad helped him.
Okay. So your dad farmed basically, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Farmed. Well, he did some butchering.
Okay.
He was a butcher and he made roly poles.
Ah, that's a Danish dish, right?
He made lots and lots of that later on.
Yeah. So where did you go when you went to town? What town did you go to?
Well, we went to Fiskus, that was only 2 miles.
Okay.
Or Audubon was 12.
How many stores were in Fiskus when you were a little kid, do you remember?
There was 3 or 4 of them. That was a kind of a boom town at the time.
Oh, really? So it was the big town, big night on Saturday night or Wednesday night? Or?
Saturday night. Of course, we didn't get to town much anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Back in those years.
But you said it was kind of a boom town. What do you think made it a boom town?
It was the only town right around there.
Oh, okay, all right.
And of course, there was an implement shop and a blacksmith shop and a grain mill and a grocery store and a gas station.
Okay.
And a barber shop.
Wow.
And a garage, automobile repair shop.
Okay. Do you remember, did they ever have like movies shot on the sides of buildings on Saturday night or anything like that?
They never had it in Fiskus. They did all around there.
Okay.
Kimmelton and Jacksonville had them.
Okay.
Kirkman, I think.
All right. Where did you go to school? Did you go to country school?
Yeah, I went to country school for, to the 7th grade, I think it was.
Okay. All right. And how far did you have to walk? You remember?
A mile.
A mile, okay.
Yeah.
Was it uphill both ways?
You betcha.
That's exactly right.
But, Then, one cold December night, the house burned.
Oh, wow.
Everything.
How old were you then?
I think I was 12.
Okay, so you remember that quite vividly?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that would have been like 37, something like that, if you were born in 1925?
38. I think it was 38.
Okay, all right. So that was a cold winter night, and what happened, do you know?
Well, I never knew what caused it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, my dad come upstairs to rouse the kids. And,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I smelled the smoke, which was common. My great uncle would get up in the morning and
Yeah.
start the fire, and then I have smoke all over it.
Okay, so did you have like a big coal or wood burning stove in the middle of the living room or something like that?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Had a furnace in the basement, but
Mhm.
we didn't use that.
Oh, okay. So they never really, that had to be a scary, scary thing.
Well, it was, the time my dad come up the second time to get me.
Yeah. We had to come up twice. You didn't
Yeah.
get up the first time?
No, I had to sit on my butt and slide down the stairs
Oh,
because
wow.
the smoke was really getting thick.
So do you remember standing outside that house and watching it burn?
No, we had to go to the neighbors
Uh-huh.
to call the fire department. We didn't have a telephone.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the kids, we stayed up there, and my dad went back down to help
Yeah.
fight the fire, and
So which fire department came?
Audubon,
Audubon. Okay, so you're 12 miles from Audubon?
12 or 13.
Okay,
something
all right.
like that.
Okay. Oh,
But they
wow.
pumped the cistern dry, and
Okay. And that was all they could do?
yeah,
Okay. Not a whole lot of water in the cistern,
No.
probably. I mean, when it comes to fighting a house fire, you know, by the time the firemen get out in the middle of the night and drive 12 miles, I mean, that baby had a good head start, you know.
yeah,
So was there anything that you saved from the house? Do you remember anything about that?
nothing.
Okay, nothing at all.
And there was a chicken house right close there, it burned.
Yeah, it caught fire
I
too.
think there was 500 chickens in there.
Oh, wow.
Got roasted.
Yeah, that's quite a loss, and this is right during the Depression.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a good time for any of that stuff to happen.
No, it sure wasn't.
So where did you move to then?
Well, we moved to Audubon for
Okay.
a couple, 3 months, and then to Minden.
Okay. So you lived in Audubon for 2 or 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did your dad do while you were living in Audubon? Was he still working the same
Well,
place?
he was doing a little, I don't know, maybe he was working in that locker plant over there, I can't remember.
Okay. But your dad was a butcher and evidently a pretty good one. Okay, all right.
Yeah, then we moved to Minden.
Okay.
He went to work in the locker plant down there.
So you moved to Minden probably so your dad would have work in
Yeah.
Minden. So would that have been in 38 or 39 or?
Yeah, I suppose it'd been spring of 39.
Okay, spring of 1939. Okay, all right. Okay, so when you moved to Minden, did you live in town then? Or-
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. All right, so let's go back to country school just a little bit. You had to walk a mile to country school. And how many years did you go to that country school that you remember?
Well, I suppose 6 or 7.
Okay, all right. So you probably started school in about 1930 and 31, you would have
Yeah,
been 6.
somewhere in there.
Okay. All right, what was your favorite class in school, Gunnar? What were you really good at?
I don't, probably geography.
Okay, all right, you liked seeing the different spots on the map and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Yeah, and then
What?
big globe there.
Aha, so what was your least favorite thing? What did you really not like? What class?
So probably English.
Probably English, okay. Did you ever get in trouble in country school?
No,
Okay.
no, we pretty well behaved. But,
You must have had a pretty good teacher then if you were well behaved.
yeah.
Because some teachers, if the kids can pull a wool over her or his eyes, why, they usually do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then you moved to Minden probably in 1939 or 1940. Okay. So then did you go to Minden to high school?
Mhm.
Okay. And what years did you graduate?
Well, I didn't.
Okay, but that's all right. A lot of people didn't
I
graduate.
went through the junior year,
Okay.
and I quit.
Okay.
Or actually, I didn't go back,
Mhm.
because I finished the junior year,
Okay.
and I joined the Air Force, or
Okay.
Air Corps at that
Okay.
time.
All right, so now we're talking, okay, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. When Pearl Harbor was bombed, you were probably 16 years old because in 1925, okay, to 41, that's okay. So had you Do you remember that Sunday in December?
Very well.
Okay, why don't you talk to us about it?
Well, a friend of mine, his dad took us to the theater in Neola movies Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And then, of course, he was waiting there for us when we got out, and he told us that what had happened.
What did you think when you heard that?
So, well, what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, had you heard anything about Hitler or paid any attention to Hitler and Europe invading?
Nothing really, but
Yeah.
I do remember the next day, they brought us all into the assembly, and they had a radio in there, and they listened to President Roosevelt's speech there. You probably remember that.
Yeah.
He'll live in infamy.
Yeah, that's December 7th, 1941. The Empire of Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and all that stuff. Well, it's interesting that the school knew that Roosevelt was going to speak. I mean, we've had some other people tell us something very close to that.
Yeah.
So now you were a junior, do you think? Was that your junior year?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
No, it must have been
Maybe it was your sophomore year.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why do you think, Gunnar, that you quit school after your junior year?
Well, I didn't like school.
There you go. That's a good reason right there.
But I would have been drafted.
Okay.
They gave you 6 months to finish high school.
Oh, really?
If you could finish within 6 months, then you'd get a deferment.
I see.
Otherwise, you'd be drafted. So
Okay, all right.
I didn't want to be drafted, so I joined the Air Force.
Okay. Now, we're going to back up and talk about something really interesting. When did you first realize that you liked airplanes?
Oh, way back in about 1932 or something.
Okay, when you were 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
What event really called your attention to
Well,
airplanes?
on the farm out there was west of us, there was a long ridge there.
Yeah?
A guy used to land his old biplane, similar to those things,
Okay,
on that ridge, and we could see it from our
okay,
back of our place.
yeah. So did you run over there when you heard that biplane, or
Never got that.
you never got that?
Dad didn't like airplanes.
Your dad didn't like airplanes. Okay, why don't you think your dad liked airplanes?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, he thought there was some new contraption that were
Yeah.
probably dangerous or something like that. But man, when you heard that airplane coming, or they heard that motor, you looked up there and you got all excited, I'm sure.
There was a fellow by the name of Marion Nelson.
Okay.
Did you ever know him?
No, Marion Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why would he land up there? What was?
Well, his parents lived south of Fiskus, about a mile.
Okay, all right.
He'd land up there because it was a nice one.
Okay. So he would go visit his parents then.
Yeah.
Was that a regular landing strip, or was it just
No.
kind of a pasture?
No, there was very few airplanes around.
Yeah,
It was a
okay.
hayfield, I guess.
Well, he must have felt pretty good about it. He wasn't too worried about hitting a badger hole or any of that kind of stuff. But what are you going to do about it?
They had wheels that big.
Yeah, and I can see on those pictures from here, those wheels are that big. So, had you listened to any Air Adventures or Captain Midnight or Jimmy Allen or any of that stuff on the radio when you were a little kid? Or did you even have a radio out in the farm?
Yeah, I think there was Jack Armstrong and
All American Boy.
and some others.
Yeah, okay.
We finally had a radio there in 1936, I think it was.
Okay, before the house burned.
Yeah.
You got a radio. Okay.
Before that, we had one of them great big old things that was sitting in the closet.
Yeah, okay.
And we were drunk with it.
But your radio, you remember having a radio at home on
Yeah.
that farmhouse that
Yeah,
burned.
we got one that had a storage battery, 6-volt battery. You had
okay.
to take it down,
Okay.
get charged.
Get
every-
charged up? Okay, all right.
And some dry cell things.
Okay. All right, so you were still in school when Pearl Harbor happened, and your friend's dad picked you up at the movie theater, or your dad did, and told you about Pearl Harbor. So then you're going home. This is right before Christmas in 1941. Do you remember any airplane toys, getting airplane toys as a kid when you were growing up? Or did you build model airplanes or anything like that?
I used to do some wood carving,
Okay,
get the end out of a beach crate or something.
yeah,
Little airplane. cowboys and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, yeah, but that's fun though.
Most of that burned up.
Yeah, well, that's too bad. That's a sad story to have your house burned when you're growing up like that. Okay, so you go back to school on Monday following Pearl Harbor on the 8th of December, and they have a big school assembly, and you got to hear Roosevelt talk about the attack. Okay, so you finished your junior year then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then you knew you were going to be drafted, and you did not want to go in the Army or the Marine Corps or the Coast Guard or the Navy. You wanted to be in the Air Corps. And it was called Army Air Corps in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't called the Air Force. Now, did you want to be a pilot, or you just want to be around airplanes?
Oh, I thought I wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Actually, I signed up in the cadet program.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, is that before that you enlisted? Or is that after you enlisted that you signed up
Well,
for the cadet?
I enlisted on my 18th birthday,
Okay.
and then I went on active duty on the 3rd of August.
Okay. All right.
About
Okay.
2-3 weeks later.
Okay. So on your 18th birthday, that would have been July of 1943. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. So you finished your junior year of high school, and where did you go then for your physical? Okay.
Omaha.
Omaha. Okay. Do you remember anything about that day?
Oh, not much.
I wouldn't either.
It was in the post office, the old post office.
Oh, really?
Downtown.
Did any of your friends go down with you?
No.
Okay. All right, so you went down for your physical, and then you came back. Were you still living in Minden then? Okay, so you came back home. How do you think your parents felt about you enlisting?
Well, they didn't sign for me until the last minute.
Oh, really?
They were against it, of course.
That they would rather you got drafted, do you think?
Well,
Or maybe they thought you would get out of it?
they thought I should get into radio. I used to tinker with radios all the time.
Oh, really?
And,
Okay.
so
So
that's what I should do.
did you think your parents thought that you were going to get drafted, or did you think maybe?
Well, I'm sure they knew.
Yeah. Okay. So they just signed the papers at the last minute.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So where did you go then for your basic training, Gunnar?
Miami Beach, Florida.
Whoa, that's the first Miami Beach, Florida we've had, our basic training.
That was pretty neat.
Yeah.
The Air Corps took over a whole bunch of the hotels on the beach there
Oh, really?
and used it for a basic training center.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you get to Miami Beach?
On the train.
On a train? Where did you leave from? Omaha?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you remember anything about that trip?
Well, one thing down by St. Louis.
Yeah.
We learned that you shouldn't leave the windows open when you went through a tunnel with an old steam engine.
Yeah.
Much smoke.
All that soot and stuff came in? And see, back in those days, you could, it's kind of like now with the school bus, you can put the windows up and down, but boy, you can't do that on the train now, as you obviously know,
Yeah.
probably. Okay, so you got sooty and dirty, and was that a troop train, or was it a regular just
No,
regular
it
train?
was all people that had enlisted.
Okay, all right, so it's going to be all Air Corps people, right? Okay, so when you stepped off that train, what base was that you remember? Or it wasn't a base, was it?
Well, no, it was the 414 training group or something like that.
Okay, all right.
That was one of many.
Okay, one of many. Okay, so what do you remember about your basic training?
Oh, it was hot and miserable.
Okay. You remember how many weeks it lasted, Gunnar?
Well, I think it was 6 weeks.
Okay, all right.
But they used the golf courses for drill fields
Oh, really? Okay,
and the hotel
okay,
barracks.
okay. So we're in the middle of 1943, and what was the worst thing about basic training? What you really,
Hot, sticky weather.
hot, sticky weather? Okay, period. Did you have to do a lot of marching and stuff like that?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Okay.
Of course, our PT class was out on the beach.
Okay, the what? Okay, now, those are physical training classes?
Yeah.
Okay, so jumping jacks and running and all that stuff? Okay. So after basic training, then had you signed up for any type of specific training before your basic training or during?
Just the cadet program.
Okay, cadet program, okay. All right, your basic training is over, then what happens?
Well, I didn't like school,
Yeah.
so the Army sent me to college.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, well, that made a lot of sense,
That's the way
right?
they do things.
So,
I went to the University of Akron.
Okay.
Harlan, Ohio,
Okay.
for, they called it air crew training or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
So how long did you have to go to that school?
Well, we were there, I think, just about 6 months.
Okay, now there were a bunch of other kids that went with you from Miami
Yeah,
Beach, or they were from all over probably.
Most of them was from the training group that we've been
Okay,
in.
all right. Okay, so what was that school preparing you to do?
Oh, it was mostly academic stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then there was civil air regulations, and
Okay.
we got some flight training.
Okay, now the flight training. Okay, well, this is funny that you said you didn't like school, and the Army or the Air Corps made you go to school. So you had to take regular courses like you would have in high school or whatever?
Yeah.
What did they want you to do? Get your high school diploma or something equivalent?
They didn't say anything about that.
Oh, okay. So there had to be some interesting classes though that you took.
Sort of.
Okay, sort of.
But,
Okay, so that 6-month program is over, then what do we have you doing?
then we go to classification
Okay, what's that mean?
to San Antonio, Texas.
Okay,
Well, they give you a whole bunch of tests, see whether you're going to be a pilot, a navigator, or a
Ah.
bombardier.
okay. And, go ahead.
Anyway, I didn't score too high. They just took the cream of the crop and sent them off.
Yeah,
The rest of them said, well, we're going to send you to a tech school, and
tech school.
we'll call you when there is some openings in
Okay. So you're still in San Antonio at this time?
yeah.
Okay, what was the name of that base, Gunnar?
Well, I don't remember which one.
That doesn't matter.
It was Brooks or Kelly.
Okay, all right.
There was 3 or 4 bases right around San Antonio.
Do you remember when you were going through this, hearing stories about war stories in Europe and the South Pacific and keeping up with the news at all? Or do you figure you're going to have to go overseas sooner or later? Probably. Okay. All right, so let's go back to okay, we'll just call you when we need you. So when did they call you?
They
didn't. They didn't?
They didn't.
Okay, all right, so,
They sent a bunch of us to Denver,
yeah.
to Lowry Field, armament training.
Okay, what kind of training?
Armament.
Armament training.
Guns and bombs.
Okay. Okay, now what did you think was going to come of that? You didn't know.
Well, I kind of knew that next would be gunnery school.
Okay, all right.
Which is what happened.
Okay. All right, so what was your gunnery school like?
Well, that was in Fort Myers, Florida. After we got done in Denver, they
Yeah.
stuck us on a troop train and sent us to Fort Myers, Florida.
Okay, time out. Okay, so you're in Miami, then you go to Ohio, then you go to San Antonio, then you go to Denver, and now you're going back to Florida.
Yeah.
Fort Myers, Florida? Well, were all of your trips on a train then, Gunnar?
Yeah.
Okay. So you get to Fort Myers, Florida, and you say, finally, I'm going to be able to do something that I think I can help our country out. So what was that like, gunnery school?
Well, it started out, not the first 2 weeks, there shot clay pigeons.
Clay pigeons?
And black and blue shoulder.
With a shotgun or?
Yeah.
Okay, so a 12 gauge or whatever?
12 gauge pump.
So had you done any hunting as a young kid around
Very
Christmas?
little.
Or Minden? Okay, very little.
And
So 2 weeks you were just,
2 weeks of that, and then the interesting part was the moving base range.
yeah.
It was like a half-mile racetrack.
Okay, now what was that again? Half-mile racetrack was the,
Moving base.
okay,
You stood on the back of this truck,
yeah.
and there was 25 trap houses around that track.
And this is why you're shooting this 12 gauge?
Yeah, you stand on the back of the truck, it's going about 40, 45 miles an hour.
So you're just by yourself in this truck?
Well, no, there's others.
Is anybody worried about getting shot by one of the other guys?
Well, they were all sitting down. But anyway, around there and boom, boom.
So how long did this last during the day? You know, like it be 2 or 3 hours or longer?
Well, I suppose it was a couple hours.
So So what did they say? Okay, it's your turn, Gunnar. You shoot the next one.
Yeah.
So that lasted like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had one story they told there that an instructor
Yeah.
at that moving base. Anyway, the average guy got about 12 or 13 on a trip around there.
Yeah.
This instructor broke 142 straight.
142 straight.
Yeah.
So how many laps did that take to go around?
25 each time. He was one of the Hatfields or the McCoys
Oh, really?
from West Virginia.
Yeah, wherever it was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He was a crack shot, right?
He
Evidently.
was a shooter, yeah.
Yeah. So you weren't there at the same time he was there, though?
No, I don't, he might have been there.
Okay.
He
All right.
was an instructor.
Oh, okay. So you're there 2 weeks doing this. Was that a pump shotgun or a single shot? Okay. All right. Okay. So this lasted for 2 weeks. Then you're saying, okay, now my shoulder's black and blue. Now what's the Air Corps have in charge? Or
Well,
where you next?
then they had turrets mounted
Yeah.
with shotguns in them instead of machine guns.
Oh, really?
And some high
Yeah.
trap houses, they'd shoot them clay pigeons right down at you.
Yeah.
You were supposed to hit them.
You still have the shotgun?
Well, they were mounted in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But those were like 38 or 50 caliber or well,
They were 12 gauge.
still 12 gauge.
Yeah. Clay pigeons.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think high altitude indoctrination.
Okay.
They stuck us in B-17s and took us way up high.
What did you think of that B-17? Was that the first time you'd been in an airplane?
Yeah, well, no, I had a flight training in college.
Okay, and what kind of aircraft were you in college in that flight training?
Cubs.
Old what? Old Cubs?
Yellow
Okay.
Cubs.
Yeah, okay. So did you ever get to fly one of those by yourself, a Piper Cub?
No, nobody sold it.
Okay, nobody sold
It
it.
was just familiarization.
Flight training, okay. All right, so now you're in a B-17, and would this have been 1944, do you think, or?
Yeah,
Okay, 1944.
yeah, I've been in August, I suppose.
Okay, all right, okay. So you're up in this B-17, and how many of your students you were learning how to become a gunner on a B-17? Okay. Okay, there was a tail gunner, there was a top gunner, there were two side gunners. Were there like 5 gunners on a B-17, something like that?
5 or 6.
Okay, 5 or 6. Okay, so what is your memory of that first flight in that B-17?
Well, it was spectacular.
That's a
Yeah,
good word.
you could see clear out to
Yeah,
the keys,
yeah,
really pretty.
yeah. You remember how high you went on that? Okay. So during that flight, what did they have you doing?
Nothing. It was just familiarization.
Okay, familiarization. Okay.
And then later on, we got to fire the machine guns at a sleeve of another airplane,
Okay.
throwing a target sleeve.
Okay. So a target sleeve would be like something that Ole pulls with the signs and that type of stuff on it?
Well, it's more like a windsock,
Oh, okay.
if I remember
All
right.
right. And how could you tell if you hit it or not?
Well, each guy fired had his own bunch of bullets.
Yeah.
They were dipped in wax or something
Oh, yeah?
for color.
Okay.
Colored tips when you.
So when you landed, then you knew how many times you hit.
Yeah, they'd drop that sleeve
Yeah.
on the open field or someplace. Bring it in and count it.
Isn't that something though? I mean, colored, waxed
Yeah.
bullets. Okay. All right, so,
They had one airplane, I never got to shoot it, did it?
yeah,
They called it the pinball machine.
yeah.
It was a P-39,
Uh-huh.
the old Air Cobra.
Yeah, air cover, right.
And it had a big plate on the side of it.
Yeah,
And they shot little carbon bullets
yeah.
at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Bang, if you did that plate, it would register.
How would you like to have been flying that P-39?
I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
But evidently, they thought those little BB things wouldn't penetrate the skin on it or whatever.
they said they were frangible.
Oh, really? Okay, all right.
That is,
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So when you were shooting at this this tow thing from that other airplane with the wax bullets, were you in the side turret, the tail, or the?
It was, everything was on the waist.
Okay, waist gun. Okay, all right. Okay, so how long did this training go on then with the actual B-17?
Oh, I don't know, it was probably a week or
Okay,
something.
all right. Then what happened after you had that training?
Well, then, we got a furlough to go home.
Okay, time out. Okay, now, I should have asked this before. So how successful were you in hitting that windsock with your bullets?
I don't remember.
Okay, but you're probably right in the middle. I mean, you obviously.
Yeah,
Okay.
they even had stories about somebody shooting the cable off and the sleeve went in the Gulf and they had their scores when they got back to the base.
Oh, really? Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I hear you. You know, sometimes that was accurate, sometimes it wasn't. So you got to come home on furlough. So you came home to Minden then, right? Okay. Now, how did you feel about that trip when you came home? I mean, your parents were glad to see you.
Yeah, it was nice. The only thing wrong with it, we got on the train at